Financial domination, or FinDomme, is a type of relationship often within BDSM where one person, the submissive, derives psychological and/or sexual gratification from giving money or gifts or financial control to another person, the dominant or the FinDomme. Financial domination is not for everyone. For most folks, the concept honestly is pretty baffling. However, for the people who like it, it fulfills a deep psychological need. The core of this relationship is the power exchange. The dominant is in a position of power and control, while the submissive person willingly, and that's key, relinquishes their financial resources as a sign of devotion or worship or to be humiliated. Unlike sex work, the dominant does not typically provide any sexual acts, companionship, or any conventional services in exchange for the money. The dominant's role is to command, receive, and sometimes degrade, humiliate, or shame the submissive for their financial offerings. For the dominant, the pleasure comes from the power, the control, the admiration, the worship that they get in having their lifestyle funded by a devoted follower. The submissive person gets a thrill that comes from feeling used, controlled, or worthless, in air quotes, for their money. It can be a form of intense humiliation or a way to worship someone they see as superior, or it can be a release from the stress and the responsibility of managing their own finances. The pleasure for the submissive does not come from receiving a traditional service in return, but from the act of giving itself, which reinforces the dominant's power and their own submission. The submissive might buy a dominant a coffee or a small gift online from their wish list as a way to express devotion and care, or a way to initiate some kind of access. This consensual, negotiated space is really the ethical standard within the BDSM community. These are clear limits, budgets, safe words are established. The dominant really takes responsibility to ensure that the submissive's financial well-being is not compromised. So it's important to have really clear limits in place ahead of time so that the dom can take responsibility. Now, we might see some more exploitative and predatory behavior. Unfortunately, this space is rife with the potential for scams and abuse. Fake dominance may use manipulation, blackmail, or doxing to extract money from vulnerable people without their real consent. The internet is full of people posing as FinDoms to try to scam money, and they'll often target really lonely or vulnerable folks. If you are a sub in this place, vet the dom that you're going to play with to make sure that they actually do have some responsibility and investment in making sure that the scene gets played out in a way that's meaningful for both of you and that you agree on. Consent, as with any kind of kink or BDSM, is essential. Without consent, this is not kink, it's abuse, and that's really important. Ethical FinDom is built on informed, enthusiastic, and revocable consent, meaning somebody can issue the safe word or safe gesture. They can say stop at any time, and it stops. Both parties should negotiate hard limits. For example, one sub might say, "Do not contact my employer," or "I will not go into any debt." These are healthy limits, and each submissive and dominant get to set the arrangements and limits that work for them. The nature of financial domination can push people beyond their financial limits if they're not holding that boundary and if the person who's in the dom role is also not respecting the boundary. And this can lead to severe debt and financial hardship. Ethical practitioners strongly advise against draining someone to the point of destitution. It's important for anybody who's playing in this space to think about the impact of their agreed upon spend on their day-to-day lives. This is really true for folks who are single and also true for folks who are partnered and or who have children or any dependents that are relying on those financial resources. So what are some common practices and terms that you'll need to know? A FinDom is a financial dominant. Money slave, paypig, or human ATM. These are common terms for the person who's the submissive in this dynamic. A tribute is the initial or ongoing payments made by the submissive just for the privilege of communicating with or serving the dominant. Another term is sends. This is the act of sending money. So for example, via Cash App, Venmo, Wish Tender, etc. A dominant might command a send spontaneously that requires the submissive to send over some money or a gift. The next term, budget control. The submissive sends their budget to the dominant, who then dictates how they can spend their money, often taking a portion of it for themselves. Sometimes a small portion, sometimes a large portion. It depends on the negotiations. The next term is a drain session. These are scheduled sessions where the submissive is encouraged or commanded to send as much money as they can until they are financially drained. Silent sends are made without any interaction, purely as an act of worship or appreciation. I've talked about a lot in this video, but to summarize, financial domination is a part of kink and BDSM where there is a consensual power exchange, and the primary source of that power is the act of transferring money or financial control to establish and reinforce a dominant and submissive dynamic. There isn't one way to play in this space. There's lots of flexibility for folks who want to inch into the play in a way that works for them. Remember, this turn on is psychological and it's rooted in the dynamics of power, control, worship, sometimes humiliation and degradation, rather than a direct transactional exchange for physical or sexual services. A lot of folks get that mixed up. This is not a pay to play necessarily. While it is a legitimate kink for some folks, it can carry some significant financial and emotional risks and is definitely a space where caution and clear communication are paramount. So, if you have any questions or you have any reactions or comments to anything you've heard in this video, drop them below. And if you like what you heard, feel free to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for next time.